This is the third day of this March 1982 7-day sesshin. And today we'll read from a book that so far we've never read from. Most of you will know it. It's called Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, Informal Talks on Zen Meditation and Practice by Shunryu Suzuki. It's many years ago, in the early years of the Zen Center, that someone who is no longer a member gave me this book. So I found this book, I really liked it. You may not like it, it's written for beginners. It's a very beautiful title, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. Normal in our technological or professional or school world, there's, or in the religious life, there's the novice, the beginner, the freshman, the newcomer. And then one has some aptitude and talent, one develops, becomes advanced, senior, and one becomes an adept, and finally one becomes the expert. The expert having the largest amount of knowledge, know-how, skill, and past experience. In the Zen work, one can work best when one can leave behind this volume, this wealth of knowledge, and be a beginner all the time, every day, every moment, a beginner, starting freshly, from scratch, not depending on what one knows, or acting from what one remembers, acting out of past experience. Can it be left behind so there's this fresh beginner's mind? From the preface, just a few paragraphs written by Houston Smith. Didn't realize this is. He also wrote the preface to the 3 Pillars of Zen. Professor of Philosophy, MIT. It says, 2 Suzukis. Half a century ago, in a transplant that has been likened in its historical importance to the Latin translation of Aristotle in the 13th century and of Plato in the 15th, D.T. Suzuki brought Zen to the West single-handed. 50 years later, Shunryu Suzuki did something almost as important. In this, his only book, here issued for the first time in paperback, he sounded exactly the follow-up note Americans interested in Zen need to hear. Whereas Daisetsu Suzuki's Zen was dramatic, Shunryu Suzuki's is ordinary. Satori was focal for Daisetsu, and it was in large part the fascination of this extraordinary state that made his writing so compelling. In Shunryu Suzuki's book, the words Satori or Kensho, its near equivalent, never appear. When 4 months before his death I had the opportunity to ask him why Satori didn't figure in his book, his wife leaned toward me and whispered impishly, "It's because he hasn't had it." Wives can be a nuisance. Whereupon the Roshi batted his fan at her in mock consternation, and with his finger to his lips hissed, "Shh, don't tell him." We had a beautiful story like this, maybe I mentioned it before, happened in our own Zendo many years ago, when a friend of the Roshis, Sogen, visited, and one of the then monjitors, very keen and arduous person, very impatient, he wanted to know Sogen's enlightenment story. And he said, "How long did it take you to get through Mu?" And Sogen said, "Still working. Don't worry." Don't worry, in case you didn't hear it because of your laughter. Still working, don't worry. When our laughter had subsided, he said simply, "It's not that Satori is unimportant, but it's not the part of Zen that needs to be stressed." Suzuki Roshi was with us in America only 12 years. A single round in the East Asian way of counting years in dozens. But they were enough. Through the work of this small, quiet man, there is now a thriving Soto Zen organization on our continent. His life represented the Soto way so perfectly that the man and the way were merged. Quote, "His non-ego attitude left us no eccentricities to embroider upon. Though he made no waves and left no traces as a personality in the worldly sense, the impress of his footsteps in the invisible world of history leads straight on." That's it. Mary Farkas wrote this in Zen Notes. If there's no traces, there are also no footprints. But there may be prints like this. We'll skip some things and read on here. Leaving nothing to chance, he prepared his students for their most difficult moment, when his palpable presence would vanish into the void. He suffered from cancer. Actually, one of the members of the Zen Center was there when this succession ceremony, which is a most elaborate day-long or several day-long ceremony, took place, where Beiko Roshi was installed, and Hugh Curran was there, and Suzuki Roshi was on his deathbed. He had but a few days or weeks to live. He's totally emaciated, but he still presided in this ceremony. Just a shadow. So he said this: "If when I die, the moment I'm dying, if I suffer, that's all right. You know, that is suffering Buddha. No confusion in it. No confusion in it. Confusion always comes when we don't want what's going on right now. When we think it's wrong. Somehow or other it's wrong. It shouldn't be. Well, it is. Fact is, it's there right now. The pain, the dying. What is it? Can this beginner's mind still be there, wondering? Like a child's mind, always wondering, what is this, what is that? Picking it up, looking at the underside, putting it in the mouth. What is dying? I want to know. Not by reading or hearing what other people have said, but when there's dying, what is it? Not with the recognizing mind, but directly, by having no confusion, which means no conflict with it, no quarrels with it. Nothing. Just that. What is it? No confusion in it, says Suzuki. Maybe everyone will struggle because of the physical agony or spiritual agony too. But that's all right. That's not a problem. We should be very grateful to have a limited body, like mine or like yours. If you had limitless life, it would be a real problem for you. Body does wear out and does get old. And to take care of the problem, we are trying now to transform it into plastic parts. And that may become a problem if the mind isn't alive anymore. And to keep that plastic going be a great imposition, at least on relatives or nurses. So much for the introduction. We'll read in a chapter which is called Control. And always something from the talk is, some pregnant line is taken and written right there as the preface of the chapter. And under Control, it says this: to give your sheep or cow a large, spacious meadow is the way to control. Say the same of children. To give your children lots of space is the way to control them. And I would put control in quotation marks because it's not the conventional control we think of. Keeping track of his every movement, every motion, and every mood, and reacting to it, restraining it, or getting annoyed to it, controlling oneself, but yet being still annoyed. Here in the middle of the second paragraph it says, even though you try to put people under some control, it's impossible. You cannot do it. The best way to control people is to encourage them to be mischievous. And then have to encourage them. That's sort of then manipulation. Then they will be in control in its wider sense. To give your sheep or cow a large, spacious meadow is the way to control him. So it is with people. First let them do what they want and watch them. This is the best policy. To ignore them is no good. That is the worst policy. Ignoring. I want everything to do with it. I'll close my eyes. I'll ignore it. It's not there. I don't want to see what is going on. To watch. Give lots of space and watch. This is not just to people, oneself. This refers to oneself. To ignore them is no good. That's the worst policy. The second worst is trying to control them. Dictators never learn. Always try the same thing over and over again. And one has to deal with underground and counter-revolution. Once the counter-revolution become the top dogs, then one got to control those people who were in there before, and put them in prison and execute them. Till it's one's turn again to be overthrown. To try to control what people can say. Intimidate. So there's great fear of speaking out. But always backfires sometime or another. Because there's in each human being some inherent yearning for freedom. Although one doesn't really realize what this freedom is. It's not just freedom to talk. We have that here to some extent in the West. But are we free? Because we can say our thing, speak up. At this time, there were other times during McCarthy's era where we couldn't speak. Maybe those times will come here again too. But if we do have freedom to speak, is that freedom? Complete freedom? Or freedom to buy anything we want, or to choose any profession we want to? Are we even free to choose? Are we already heavily conditioned by our parents, knowing what they want us to be? And either we become that because we want to please them, or we rebel against them, become something else. That's also no freedom. What is freedom? In which there's no program, no past conditioning impelling us. This beginner's mind, which watches and looks and sees and acts in that, acts in the seeing. Because there's no ego vantage point, ego advantage point, which distorts what is seen. The second worst is trying to control them. The best one is to watch them, just to watch them without trying to control. In sitting, we've heard now Bankei say this in Suzuki. It's being mentioned. Don't control your thoughts. Don't try to do away with them. But are you going to sit forever just watching your thoughts? There's no end to them. What is this watching? Is there a watcher? Again, someone who wants something, wants them to end, or wants to enjoy them, or is afraid of them? Who's watching the thoughts? Do they just come and go with no one watching? They're just being a questioning. What's the source of it all? It doesn't need to be verbalized that way. Where do they come from? What's underneath it? This endless stream of thoughts. One person came in and said, it's really like entertainment. There's a lot of truth in that. Entertainment meaning, I really like to have that radio going, that TV, for fear of there being nothing. What's nothing? Not knowing. Right through the thoughts. Maybe right before another one comes up. That's not battling with them. That's not trying to control them. It's leaving them alone to do what they will, like these cows in the pasture. Questioning, or questioning. Not being enchanted with the content of these thoughts. It can be awareness that there's this process going on. What is it? If I don't pay attention to the content, Who is thinking? Who am I? Just these thoughts? Suzuki continues, the same way works for you yourself as well. If you want to obtain perfect calmness in your zazen, you should not be bothered by the various images you find in your mind. Let them come and let them go. Then they will be under control. But this policy is not so easy. It sounds easy, but it requires some special effort. How to make this kind of effort is the secret of practice. Suppose you're sitting under some extraordinary circumstances. If you try to calm your mind, you will be unable to sit. And if you try not to be disturbed, your effort will not be the right effort. The only effort that will help you is to count your breathing, or to concentrate on your inhaling and exhaling. There, one can question, do I do this in order to shut out the disturbance? Then the disturbance and this inhaling and exhaling are two. My daily life, which is full of disturbance, full of anxiety and resentment and upset and anger and jealousy, ambition, what have you. And then this little refuge I go to every once in a while for 7 days, where I just count my breathing and find some calm. I'm not saying that this is what Suzuki says, leaving aside what he's saying. Can there be attending to the breathing in the midst of disturbance? There being no dividing line between the disturbance and the breathing, because there isn't. In disturbance, the breathing is disturbed, obviously. In fear, the breathing expresses the fear too. Or in longing, desiring. This body is not divided. We divide it by thinking in compartments about the breathing and this and that. And then we artificially, because we so name it, divide up our body and mind. And then we believe that. And then there seems to be a fracturing going on. So can one attend to the breathing in the midst of fear, or dullness, weariness, fatigue, without trying to manipulate it, just as it comes? What is it? Listening with this inner ear, attending inwardly. Suzuki continues, we say concentration, but to concentrate your mind on something is not the true purpose of Zen. To concentrate your mind on something is not the true purpose of Zen. The true purpose is to see things as they are, to observe things as they are, and to let everything go as it goes. Simply said, but not done very easily. To see something as it is means to be that completely, without any conflict, without any clutching, and no fear, which is on its deepest level the fear of not being, fear of being destroyed by fear. By a breaking dam, as one person put it. Being drowned by these waters which have been held back for one knows not how many years. But to live behind a dam is no life either, is it? One knows that life, and it's full of pain, tension, anxiety is there. So, why keep patching the dam? Rather than questioning oneself, is that dam? What is it? Suzuki continues, to see things as they are, observe things as they are, let everything go as it goes. This is to put everything under control in its widest sense. We always want to control narrowly, think narrowly, and patch up in a narrow way, do something about something in a narrow way. Zen practice is to open up our small mind. So concentrating is just an aid to help you realize big mind, in quotation marks here, or the mind that is everything. We can say the mind that excludes nothing, or the mind that is no thing. No thing. So what's the use of clutching things, thoughts? If you want to discover the true meaning of Zen in your everyday life, you have to understand the meaning of keeping your mind on your breathing and your body in the right posture in Zazen. You should follow the rules of practice, and your study should become more subtle and careful. Every place has different rules of practice, so not to be too hooked on the rules of practice, because they're relative, they're arbitrary very often. Can one find one's own posture? May not be very straight-backed at the beginning. May be impossible to straighten the back because there are too many crumpling thoughts and attitudes, whatever. I think many of us have experienced a time when the back straightens on its own. Even a curved back can straighten. In a way, has nothing to do with willpower or forcing a straight back. We'll go on to another chapter, which is called Mind Waves. When you're practicing Zazen, do not try to stop your thinking. Let it stop by itself. If something comes into your mind, let it come in and let it go out. It will not stay long. When you try to stop your thinking, it means you're bothered by it. One person once said, "I hate my thoughts." Why does one identify with one's thoughts, saying they are mine? Is there an owner? Me and my thoughts, or is there just a stream of thoughts? And how do I know they're my own? It's one of the helpful things that people report about group therapy, how one discovers how much one is alike in one's hateful thoughts and envious thoughts and greedy thoughts, ambitious thoughts, competitive thoughts. We've been raised this way. And our parents and their parents and their parents. It's an endless stream of thoughts. Why say they're mine? That adds complications. And who is the owner? Who? If you have that feeling of ownership, I would question who? Or is it just another thought? This me, this thinker. Just another thought in this stream of thoughts, temporarily separate from the stream, but yet still thinking. When you try to stop your thinking, it means you're bothered by it. Why not be exposed to all of these thoughts? Exposed. Without like or dislike. You don't have to react, you don't have to repress. Tremendous amount of energy goes into suppression and repression. According to idealized images and standards we have, which are fostered, imposed upon by our parents, our teachers, our religions, the commandments, the precepts. Don't be angry, don't do this, don't do that, it's bad. If we don't do it, actually we do it in our thinking, and we think, my God, I'm bad, I mustn't think this way. And we may not even think this, the repression may be very quick. But this stuff festers, it lives on. We haven't done away with it. This is how the dam is built. Can it crack? Because there's no one patching, no one adding, no one fearing. Because of a willingness, a readiness to be one with this fear, to be that fear, come what may. Because we'll no longer be divided and fragmented. Do not be bothered by anything, says Suzuki. It appears as if something comes from outside your mind, but actually it's only the waves of your mind, or the waves of mine. Because it's not yours. It's a fallacy of thinking, a false supposition. That this is my mind. How did I get it? Did I buy it? I pay for it, work for it? Be good to be able to trade it in. Chances are you'd get I was going to say you get another lemon. So Suzuki says, actually it's only the waves of mind. And if you're not bothered by the waves, gradually they will become calmer and calmer. The danger of somebody writing this, and somebody reading it particularly over and over, is that one now starts imagining, having a vision of this state of the mind becoming calmer and calmer, the waves becoming calmer and calmer, and then one sits in waiting for this event to occur. And the very sitting in waiting is a lot of wave producing. And impatience comes after a while, or disappointment, frustration. So wait for nothing. Visualize nothing. Expect nothing. Then you don't produce additional waves. There are enough there as is. Here Suzuki says, in 5 or at most 10 minutes, your mind will be completely serene and calm. Oh, I'd put parentheses around this. I didn't see that. Let's skip something and go on. It will take quite a long time before you find your calm, serene mind in your practice. And it's not that I find my mind. The mind slows down on its own. If one isn't battling it, concerned with all one's problems at home. There's questioning going on. Vast questioning, not narrow questioning. How can I solve my little personal problem? But complete, total, vast questioning. What is everything? Who am I beyond this little broom closet of mine? This little projection booth, which I play my old tapes over and over, and my old movies. Suzuki continues, many sensations come, many thoughts or images arise, but they're just waves of your own mind, or waves of mind. Nothing comes from outside your mind. Usually we think of our mind as receiving impressions and experiences from the outside, but that is not a true understanding of our mind. The true understanding is that the mind includes everything. When you think something comes from outside, it means only that something appears in the mind. He says in your mind, but let's keep the possessive pronoun aside. It's too confusing. Nothing outside yourself can cause any trouble. Whoa, once one realizes that. Because one includes everything. And there's no fear. You'll meet it. It may be painful, discomforting. So you meet discomfort and pain. Not you meet it. It's there at the moment. It's been triggered. Always with it. So what's there? No gap. No running away. That's what means no gap. No running away. And there's no problem, is there? Unless you think pain is a problem. But if you don't call it pain, you don't know what it is. It's something, but it's not a problem. I was talking this way and the microphone's over there, so hope the microphone is everywhere. Nothing outside yourself can cause any trouble. You yourself make the waves in your mind. Yeah, we do. Can one see that for a fact, how we create waves in our own mind, as was pointed out before, with expecting something to happen. For a while you'll wait, and then you become impatient, resentful that nothing has happened. Nothing that you imagine. So the vision is already the mistake. Where did the vision come from? From something you've heard, read, dreamt up out of past experiences. You've planted trouble already. Is it possible to work, to question without expectation? Not knowing the outcome of this whole thing. Then you're doing something completely different from what one normally does. How one has been educated and raised and conditioned. It's always for a result, for an outcome, toward something progressive. We do come here, don't we, to do something completely different. And yet we drag all the old stuff right back in. And strangely enough, a lot of spiritual training centers hook into this. Because there's a lot of energy in that. Ambition and so forth, and wanting progress. It's so dangerous. How to leave it behind? I don't know. I don't know how it happens. One starts by questioning his whole way of living and acting as one sees it now happening in the practice, in the work here. The questioning has its own momentum. It does, because if one wants to find out if there is another way of living altogether, because one sees the futility and the divisiveness, the danger, the pain of this way of living, wanting to reach goals, wanting to become something better than one was and better than somebody else. That's all in there. You yourself make the waves in your mind, says Suzuki. If you leave your mind as it is, it will become calm. This mind is called big mind. And the little mind is quiet. Quiet. Still, motionless. No more wanting or expecting or fearing. And something else comes into being, which he calls here big mind. The word isn't the thing. If your mind is related to something outside itself, that mind is a small mind, a limited mind. Let me say something about how he uses the word related. This is when one reads from some other teacher, everyone uses words in a certain way, and one must understand how the word is used by a certain person. So one doesn't confuse it with the way oneself uses a word, which may be different. When Suzuki says, if your mind is related to something outside itself, that mind is a small mind, a limited mind. Here he means related as if your mind, if you feel distant from something outside of you, if there's a distance, here's me, and then there's that thing which I'm trying to reach. That's how he uses the word related here. So if we reword it this way and say, if there's something outside yourself at a distance, then there's a small mind, limited mind. He goes on, if your mind is not related to anything else, or if there's no distance to anyone or anything, no distance, then there's no dualistic understanding in the activity of your mind. Me and you, this and that. Which doesn't mean that the lake out there disappears, or the waves, or the stone. But are they distant? They are distant if you think these are stones. Start philosophizing about water washing over stones. Then this little mind is not quiet. Quiet means just awake, that's all. Awake, alive, and otherwise quiet. And everything just appears as it is. And goes as it goes. Suzuki continues, you understand activity as just waves of your mind. Big mind experiences everything within itself. Do you understand the difference between the two minds, the mind which includes everything, and the mind which is distant from something? Here he says related to something. Actually, they're the same thing, but the understanding is different. And your attitude towards your life will be different according to which understanding you have. That everything is included within mind is the essence of mind. That nothing is excluded. Nothing. Not because I make a resolution that I will include everything in my mind. It's not a matter of resolution, it's a fact. Suzuki continues, to experience this is to have a religious feeling. Even though waves arise, the essence of the mind is pure. Can there be awareness, pure awareness, that doesn't judge, doesn't condemn, and doesn't accept? Pure, meaning like a mirror, just things are there or they're not there. When they're there, they're completely there, and the mirror is filled. When they're not there, the mirror is empty. But even while the mirror is filled, it does not object, does not resent. It just is all that. No escape. When there's no escape, there will be no new waves. Even though waves arise, the essence of mind is pure. It is just like clear water with a few waves. Actually, water always has waves. Waves are the practice of the water. To speak of waves apart from water, or water apart from waves, is a delusion. Water and waves are one. Big mind and small mind are one. When you understand mind in this way, you have some security in your feeling. As your mind does not expect anything from outside, it is always filled. A mind with waves in it is not a disturbed mind, but actually an amplified one. Whatever you experience is an expression of big mind. It's easy to become philosophical about this. We will leave this alone. One person said, it's very difficult to practice here because the place is so beautiful. Not this hall particularly. But the lake, and the stream, and the trees, and then these geese, and birds. And this person said, I'm becoming totally distracted by all of that. Admitting that there's a great romantic feeling for all of this. Of course, you don't have to go to the lake. You can sit here, if that's what you need to do. But if you go to the lake, how do you go there? Can this little mind be absolutely quiet? Not wanting to see something. That's wanting, and then you don't see. And what is seen, not to try to get at the deeper, profounder meaning of it. There is none, except what you manufacture. If you hear the geese, how do you know they're geese? Well, one may be a bird watcher and knows that they're geese, but what are they really? Other than honk, 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 honk. Can this mind that recognizes everything and knows be quiet? If you really listen to what's going on, then there's no room for a word, there isn't. Because there's all of it. You're just all of that sound. And whether one is inside or outside, inside we also have noises like a refrigerator. There can be reaction to that, people walking, but there's less of this. One is more used to these noises and maybe the romanticism and isn't exactly triggered by a refrigerator. Yet there can be annoyance at it, rather than, what is it? And what is this resistance coming up? There's no place where you cannot begin to question. Beginner's mind, always questioning, not knowing, looking, listening, but not to see something. There's nothing. What is it? If you really don't know, end here for today.